Fantastic Fest 2024 is done and I survived without getting COVID. Woo! Let's rank some movies. Welcome to the Cinefanatics. My name is Robert Adams, and today I am here to rank all 22 movies I saw at Fantastic Fest 2024. Before I get started with this, let me know your thoughts and feelings of some of these movies. If you've seen them all, which ones are you interested in? Let me know down below in the comments. While you're down there, make sure you like and subscribe. You know the YouTube things. Go do those YouTube things. Help us out. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Anyways, let's move on. Fantastic Fest is a film festival held here in Austin, Texas at the South Lamar Alamo Draft House. This is my second year going. I had a lot of fun this year compared to last year. I'll get into that here in a bit, but it is a film festival that basically caters to genre films, primarily horror, which if you know this channel, I am a huge fan of. My brother is not, so those of y'all that are wondering why you haven't seen my brother in a lot of these videos that I've been kicking out lately, that's why. He doesn't like horror movies. He's not spending the money that it takes to go to Fantastic Fest when 85% of the movies that he could possibly see are all going to be movies that he's not interested in seeing. So therefore, this is a solo operation for myself, but I very much enjoy it. It is genre film, so it is horror, action, foreign films, indie films, LGBTQ plus type films, and I have a blast with it. I had a blast last year, had a huge blast this year, with some differences. First off the bat, let me get into some of the good things with this. I love seeing my friends again. When you go to a film festival like this, especially like say, I've been to South by Southwest, it's also held here in Austin, Texas, and I've been to Fantastic Fest. South by Southwest is scattered all across various theaters in downtown Austin, and also the Alamo Draft House at South Lamar, the same place that Fantastic Fest was at. And that gets hectic because you're having to move around all over the place. You're waiting in lines. I don't have a lot of fun with South by Southwest. Fantastic Fest, however, it is all at the one theater. So you and your friends are all in the same place. Hopefully, if you go, you are going with people that you may be familiar with, maybe people that you've created connections with over social media. If you're a YouTuber or you review movies on TikTok or Twitter, hopefully you've gotten some connections. You have people that you can hang out with, but you will inevitably gain more friends at the festival. People that you were just commonly talking to before. After you see a movie, you come out, hey, what movie did you see? What movie did you see? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Would you recommend it? That all happens constantly, and that's what makes this festival a whole lot of fun, is getting all of those opinions. So I do enjoy the fact that I got to see a lot of my friends from last year again this year. One nice thing about it, though, is we were all kind of scattered. We really weren't like in the one same group the entire time, which is nice because that means all of my friends are also making friends of their own, and we just have more and more people that are a part of the group catering to suggestions and recommendations, and that is what is needed to have, at least for me, a successful second half of the festival. The festival is broken into 8 days. The first 4 days are really going to be your bigger movies. That's the ones where you're going to have a lot more premieres, and you're going to have a lot more of the celebrities show up. And that is another big thing I enjoyed this year, is the amount of celebrities who were there. Last year, we were in the middle of the writers and actors strike, and the actors were not available to come to the festival to help promote their movies. It was against the guild for them to promote movies, so we really didn't see a whole lot of actors. Primarily just saw a lot of directors and writers and producers. Like last year, I did get to meet Elijah Wood, who was there in a producer capacity, because he was there as a producer of The Toxic Avenger, which still has not come out as of the time of this video being filmed, so weird. But otherwise, lot more actors there this year because there wasn't an actor strike, so they were free to come out and promote their movie. And that's what made this so much more fun for me this year, as I'm someone who absolutely adores getting to meet these celebrities, get pictures with celebrities. If you were following me on Twitter at RCA Reacts, you probably saw a lot of these pictures as I was taking them, as I could quickly get them up. Getting to meet celebrities like Halle Berry, Sebastian Stan, the entire cast and director of Terrifier 3, the what I refer to as horror royalty of Barbara Crampton, and then a lot of other people that are in this space, whether it's other YouTubers like friends, Sean Chandler, Cody Leach, getting to meet, or officially getting to meet Tessa Smith from Mama's Geeky, and also finally getting that picture with Perry Nemiroff from Collider, and also the newbie that you usually see at the beginning of the movies when you go to the theater early before your screening starts. Getting to see all of these people, getting pictures with them, getting to talk with them, it's so much fun, and I highly recommend Fantastic Fest specifically for that. Now, the bad side of it. Last year I went in as a super fan, which means I got to choose my movies the week before they were available to choose for, or the week before the festival got started, I should say. This year I was not that lucky. I kind of slept on it, and by the time it came time for me to buy my badge, the super fan was already sold out. So what that means is the stuff that I heard people complaining about last year with having to wake up early and refresh and pick your tickets 24 hours before the next day, that was what I got to deal with this year. More on that here in a bit. The first thing right off the bat is the timing of these movies. Much like last year, there are 5 movie slots throughout the day. There is a showing sometime in the 11 o'clock a.m. hour, 2 p.m., 5 p.m., 8 p.m., and 11 p.m. So there's the 5 slots, and you typically have about an hour or so in between to go talk with your friends and discuss what you just saw, what would they recommend. This year was a little bit difficult, especially, say, for opening night. Terrifier 3 was the opening night movie at, 11 something is when it was supposed to start. It didn't actually start till after midnight. And then after the movie's over, after the Q&A, and by the time you get out of the theater and you're talking to your friends and stuff, for me, I live roughly, depending on traffic and time of day, anywhere from a 30 to 40 minute drive away from this theater. So there's also keeping that in mind that I have roughly about an hour of travel time total each day that I got to deal with. That first night, I wasn't actually able to get home, eat dinner, and then get to bed till after 5 a.m. And then I had to turn around and be up by 9:30, 9:45 so I could be selecting my tickets at 10 a.m. for the next day. So the timing of that is bad. And I know the Alamo Drafthouse, they're going to say, well, to help cut back on the timing, maybe you should order your dinner at the theater before you go home, which is great. If your meals weren't anywhere from $15 to $20 to $25 per meal, and expecting to do that every single night of the festival or meals during the day, it gets very expensive very quick. So I don't recommend doing that. It just kind of sucks. I know there's a lot of people I talk to that live here in Austin, Texas, that may choose to get a hotel or an Airbnb that are close to the theater to really cut down on that travel time. It's much easier to leave the theater, get home, and get to bed, get some decent sleep, get up the next day, and choose your tickets for the following day, and then get to the theater to enjoy that movie that shows in the 11 o'clock hour. I get it. That just isn't what I was able to do, and that just kind of sucks. So this is your mileage may vary as far as that goes. As far as the ticketing system itself, that is terrible that you're just sitting there clicking, because again, I'll use that first day example. I didn't get to bed till after 5, and then I'm having to get up roughly 4 hours later to choose tickets for the next day. And when you're clicking on those tickets, everyone is getting that same opportunity. So you are having to click fast, and then you're watching that spinning wheel, so you have 4 hours of sleep, and there's nothing quite like waking up and starting your day with anxiety. And then, depending on if you're gonna go see a movie at the 11 o'clock, you gotta get up and go. Or, in my case, what I did a lot of times is I would not see a movie at 11, and I would end up trying to go back to bed. In some cases that worked, in some cases it didn't. That day after seeing Terrifier, that didn't work for me. So what I ended up doing is I just sat here and filmed my review, spoiler-free review for Terrifier 3, which is up and available on this channel right now. But there's not a whole lot of energy. I didn't put a whole lot of editing into it. I just was tired. I just didn't really want to mess with that. So that's something I feel like needs to be worked out, especially because, like, unless you're a cult or super fan, like I said, you get to choose your tickets ahead of the time, so you're not having to wake up every day, and you get that ability to maybe sleep in a little bit longer. For me, that waking up early kind of helped cater to me not feeling well about halfway through this festival. By the following Monday after it started, I was already starting to feel symptoms of getting sick, and I had to make some changes to what I was doing. I dropped some movies that I really wanted to see that were in my anticipation video. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to those, and I really needed to prioritize getting some rest and some sleep. You want to make sure you stay healthy for this. Stay clean, keep your hygiene up, because you are at a genre film festival that is basically catering to a lot of film nerds of varying degrees of how they prioritize their hygiene. So you want to make sure that you are keeping yourself as clean as possible to keep yourself from getting sick. Like I said, I was about halfway through it, and I was just starting to feel a little ill, and I'm like, no, I needed to sprint to the finale of this, because I still had like another 4 days to go, and it sucked. I was able to get over it, so the changes I made worked, but like I said, it kind of sacrificed my ability to watch some of these movies. So the ticketing and the timing, I think, are awful. I don't have suggestions really for better ideas. I don't know behind the scenes how the businesses ran, so I really can't cast off those judgments to the Alamo Drafthouse to tell them that this needs to work better. This may be the best option. It just still sucks, though. So that being said, that's enough with me being negative as the festival as a whole. Again, I absolutely adore this festival for what it is. And now it's time to get into some negative about some of these movies as we start counting down my top 22 movie. Out of all the 22 movies I saw, let's rank these. We're going to start with the worst at 22. Let's get into this. Number 22 is Don't Mess with Grandma, or Sunset Superman, or whatever you want to call it. Holy crap, where do I begin with this movie? I don't think Michael Jai White and Billy Zane actually fully knew that they were in this movie. While production called it Sunset Superman, Tubi did buy this movie to distribute on its own streaming platform and changed the name to Don't Mess with Grandma. Neither one of those titles really fits this movie, in my opinion. This movie is a mess. No one seems to care about acting or blocking scenes or action set pieces. Michael Jai White himself is trained in 9 different martial arts styles, and we don't see that. Where is that in this movie? We don't see it. We see like casual like hits like, and that's it. This movie's acting and story kind of has the same kind of feeling and flow as Tommy Wiseau's The Room. And like The Room, I don't know if they're entirely serious with this. Unlike The Room, I doubt this movie's gonna achieve that cult status of we just have fun with this. This movie was just awful. Pass on it. Number 21, Little Bites. Alright, kind of different from last year. From here on out, all of the rest of these movies, I actually enjoyed to varying degrees. That Don't Mess with Grandma, I will never rewatch that movie. Just, ugh. The rest of these movies, I actually enjoyed on some level. So keep that in mind as I continue to go through these. I didn't hate all of these movies. Now let's get into this one. Little Bites is directed by Spider-One, the lead singer of Powerman 5000, and Rob Zombie's brother. And this movie had everything going for it. This movie's basically a mom who's desperate to get back to a normal life that doesn't include a basement demon that eats little bites off of her. I was intrigued by this idea, even though it's slow and very dialogue heavy. You want to know what's happening, and you are watching a very tense situation happening, and then the ending hits you. I haven't been smacked with a WTF as I was with this movie. Everything that was built up and invested in was gone in the last 2 minutes. It killed the whole movie with a nonsensical ending that desperately needed one of those ending explained YouTube videos to play like immediately after. There's a bunch of amazing cameos from horror royalty to icons to even YouTubers who love counting all the kills in your favorite horror movies. I had such high hopes. I was so invested in this, and the final 2 minutes just dead. Oh, I really wanted more from Little Bites. Number 20, Never Let Go. This was another wide-release movie whose trailer was basically playing in front of every single movie I went to go see. So by the time it came time to watch this movie, I was actually really tired of the trailer. And I really wasn't that invested from that trailer to begin with. The trailer made it look like it's sort of like Bird Box-esque, which is fine. But when watching this movie, the thing to keep in mind, this movie is very slow paced, it's very drawn out, and nothing really kicks in until like a twist that happens about halfway through the movie, and from then on, I am glued to the front of my seat wondering what's going to happen. While Halle Berry is great in her role as a possibly crazy mother, it's really her two kids, the two boys that are in this movie, that are the stars of this movie. Especially in that second half, they are phenomenal, and I highly recommend this movie just watching their performance alone. It is completely the reason why the second half of this movie is so good. I just wish it picked up a little bit more in that first half. Number 19, VHS Beyond. I am not a found footage guy. Like, I'm not a fan of the Blair Witch Project. Probably one of my favorite found footage movies I've seen lately is Hell House LLC. These VHS movies are usually always hit or miss with me. This year, the stories had a sci-fi type angle to it, which worked well for the stories of Stork, a seemingly zombie-like story of cops dealing with missing babies, and Live and Let Die, the skydiving, avoiding aliens in an orange grove story that you've seen from the trailer. The rest of these stories, including the wraparound, they're just very blah to me. And with anthology movies, wraparound stories are usually the ones that don't get a lot of love and attention, and they're usually the weakest part of the entire movie for me. Honestly, I think I was a bigger fan of VHS 85 last year. That just seemed to work out more segments, more portions of it worked better for me with that found footage aspect. This one, I just had a hard time dealing with a lot of it. Number 18, The Draft. If you are a fan of the movie Cabin in the Woods, imagine that movie, but if the characters were knowledgeable of horror movie tropes like the characters in Scream, then they get to experience the writer messing with them a lot like Stranger Than Fiction with Will Ferrell. That is what you're getting in The Draft. While it does feel slow to get started and takes you a moment to get into the idea that it's showing, it's fun and completely unexpected where it goes. I would have loved to have seen other ideas for where these victims could have gone and what could have played out, but interesting idea. It's just a little hard and slow to get to that point, but good showing so far. Number 17, The Rule of Jenny Penn. This is a great movie to kick off the first day of Fantastic Fest with. It is creepy and weird, and it's a little hard to explain. Jeffrey Rush plays a cantankerous judge who has checked into an old folks care home after having a stroke. While there, he runs into a delightfully weird character played by John Lithgow, who seems to have some control over the care home's inhabitants and staff, and he rules with an iron fist. I mean, an eyeless hand puppet. It does have a look and feel of an Italian giallo in a weird mystery, and what's happening combined with some overly saturated and vibrant colored shots. It's going to require another rewatch, as I feel I got lost in the reason as to why all of this is happening. Or there really isn't any answers, and Lithgow's character is just simply psychotic. It's wonderful performances by Rush and Lithgow, though. Highly recommend check it out when you get the opportunity. Just be prepared. It's a little strange. Number 16, Heretic. So Heretic was secret screening number 3, and there's 2 major parts to really talk about with this movie. Part number 1 is Hugh Grant. He is phenomenal in this. He shed his rom-com charm and redirected it into a very intelligent in both religion and pop culture references, and he's pulling off playing a creepy kind of fella. There are portions of this that we are busy following the 2 missionaries, and while they also are well done in their performance, I kind of wish I was seeing more of Hugh Grant's creepy performance, his creepy character in this. The second point is the questions, themes, and discussions of religion that this movie brings up. I grew up in following a Christian faith, and a lot of what is discussed here doesn't feel like we're really tackling any new ideas. I feel like anyone that has like a very basic idea of like how religion works or the story of your given religion is stuff that you can easily look up and fact check against one another religions on like Wikipedia. That being said, I'm not a huge fountain of religious knowledge. I kind of preferred all his pop culture references more. I would be interested in seeing some religious scholar or leader answer some of the theories and the questions that are proposed in this movie, and how much do they actually hold water in the grand scheme of things. Because, again, this is a movie that's meant for entertainment. It's not meant to be a major piece of religious theology that we need to be dissecting and picking apart. It's all simple ideas and things discussed within this movie. If you are not well versed in religious theory, you might find this movie intriguing, but I'm afraid a lot of people are going to have words with some of the accusations and ideas that this movie is presenting and basing itself on. This might be a very controversial movie for quite some time. Number 15, House of Spoils. This is my jam. I love movies and I love cooking. And House of Spoils felt like it had a lot of that same kind of feeling like Chef starring Jon Favreau, which is a phenomenal movie. I highly recommend it. Ariana DeBose leaves a prestigious restaurant to open her own restaurant, and unfortunately the new building seems to be cursed by witches and is not the best place to confit or flambe your fine dining. I like the idea, but the story starts to fall apart the more she continues to work there. Are the witches trying to help her, or is this really a basic haunted house type of routine? Plus, the more it pushes into the horror, the more we're losing the food and the cooking angle that this movie has been building up, like at least in the first half. I would like to see a more straightforward take on this idea instead of overcomplicating it with extra side points that seem to just bog down the story and then take away from what could be an amazing finale. It needs to be sent back for a refire. Number 14, Mr. Crocket. Mr. Crocket is a fast-paced fantasy horror movie that has an underlying message of domestic abuse, or primarily like parental abuse. This kind of reminds me of that story in Tales from the Hood with David Alan Grier, where he is a stepfather who's abusive to his stepchild. Kind of the same vibe and idea, message in this movie as well. The only issue with this movie, it seems like the script could have used a couple more passes to flesh out the idea. The mom that we're following really isn't abusive. She's just struggling to pay bills, put food on the table, and be a single parent, and she just really needs help. She doesn't need her child kidnapped or threatened or taken away from her. She doesn't need to be killed by this entity. She just needs some help, y'all. Luckily, it's made up with fantastic kills, practical gore, and amazing puppetry that made this feel more like a demented Pee-wee's Playhouse. Plus, I did enjoy the zany, almost Freddy Krueger-like performance from Mr. Crocket's actor Elvis Nolasco. It's a fun idea, I just don't think it was executed in the best way. Number 13, Apartment 7A. I had low expectations for this. As I said in my anticipation video, my lowest ranked movie from last year was a prequel that no one was asking for from a very classic movie that was going straight to Paramount Plus, and it was awful. Like, I absolutely hated Pet Sematary Bloodline. Now we get notified that this Apartment 7A is a prequel to Rosemary's Baby, that, again, also a prequel that we really weren't asking for, that was also going to Paramount Plus, which I believe is actually available to watch on Paramount Plus as of right now as I'm filming this. And while Pet Sematary Bloodlines is a gigantic mess of a movie, this prequel was surprisingly not terrible. It does, however, feel more like a remake than a prequel, but with better pacing. Julia Garner and Diane Weiss do a great job with their characters, and they were the standouts of this movie. Otherwise, this movie doesn't really do anything amazing or anything bad. It's just kind of in the middle, but don't have to take my word for it. I am the recipient of a swag bag that they chose to give us, full of like plastic popcorn buckets and socks, and you know, I refuse to be a shill, regardless of how good their Rosemary's Baby's popcorn, caramel popcorn. This actually is really good. Never mind. This movie's phenomenal. Go check it out. Number 12, AJ Goes to the Dog Park. Real quick, lesson learned, don't eat caramel popcorn when you're trying to film a video. It's gonna stick around for quite a bit. Anyways, so, true story time. Another festival goer gave me a couple of hits of his legal Texas botanicals before I went in to go see this, and I was still too sober for this movie. This is Adult Swim levels of absurd, and while I'm not the target audience for like Rick or Morty or this level of absurdity, there are some genuine laughs to be had with this film. I could have walked out once I realized what I was getting into, but I stayed, and I'm kind of happy I did. Director Toby Jones, no, not that Toby Jones. Apparently there's another person who works in Hollywood named Toby Jones. Go figure, people can have similar names. He's just having a lot of fun making this, and talking with him afterwards, you can tell he just enjoys his work, and I can't fault anyone for doing what they love. Like, you could see the passion that he had for this movie. It's absurd, it's weird, it's the kind of humor of like, hey, quit pulling my leg, and then the very next shot you see someone literally pulling this person's leg. It's that kind of absurd humor while you're trying to have a very fun, heartfelt story. I do recommend it, just, this might not be your kind of brand of humor, it's not mine, but have at it as you will. Number 11, Trizombie. Trizombie very much has that indie feel. It's like a group of friends decided to get together with no budget and make a zombie apocalypse flick in which the zombie disease, the virus, is affecting everyone except for people who were born with Down syndrome. The dialogue can be cheesy at times, but the acting, especially from the actors with Downs, is amazing. They're all having a blast with these characters, and it makes the whole movie fun. I very much appreciate a movie that uses a disability in a positive way like this, and no matter how absurd the premise may be. The other place this movie shines is the makeup and effects. The gore and zombie makeup are way beyond what you would expect from an indie movie. They're actually pretty solid, big budget gore effects, and I was shocked by that. So I would recommend come from the intriguing idea and the comedy, stay for the phenomenal performances and the gore. This is the good stuff right here. Number 10, Mads? I don't know. The M is capital and the S at the end is capital. I don't know why. All I had heard about this was that it's a zombie outbreak movie done in one take, which is a lot like 1917, in that the whole thing had no breaks, no cuts, as far as you, the audience, could see. What I didn't know is it's not really a narrative. We're shown how the zombie outbreak is affecting 3 different people over the course of the night. If you go into this expecting a story or character development, you're gonna be disappointed. If you go in knowing you're following 3 people as they themselves are dealing with transforming into a zombie and then dealing with the crumbling world around them, you're gonna have a blast with this. Also of note, you must watch this movie with the best sound system that you possibly can. I highly recommend go see this in a theater if at all possible. The sound design, unfortunately, while it probably isn't going to be nominated for Oscars, it should, because the sound design is what makes this movie even better than what I was just describing. On top of it being a one take, getting the sound effects and what we are hearing around us, it's amazing, it's phenomenal. It is the thing that I would highly recommend go see this movie for above anything else. Number 9, Better Man. So this was secret screening number 3, and this was a movie that pretty much nobody was guessing. I didn't even know it existed. Better Man is a musical biopic of singer Robbie Williams, and while I am a fan of a few of his songs, namely Millennium and Angels and Back for Good that he did with Take That, I don't know too much more about the singer. Michael Gracie returns to direct musicals after the success of The Greatest Showman, and instead of giving us another troubled musician who enjoys alcohol, cocaine, and depression a little too much, he changes it up. He changes it up by making Williams portrayed by a CGI chimp, which the effects were done by Weta, which explains why he looks a lot like Caesar from those Planet of the Apes movies. I actually enjoyed it, even though most of my theater walked out and it kind of felt like I was watching this movie by myself. That's what happens with these secret screenings. You never know what you're going to get. Number 8, A Different Man. Sebastian Stan is gunning for that Oscar nomination right here, let me tell you. This is an amazing but quirky film about a man with a facial deformity. He gets it removed, but then he loses the ability to play himself in a play based on his life. And while Sebastian is great as Edward, Adam Pearson not only steals his role in the play in the movie, he also steals every scene he's in this movie. It sounds like he modeled the character of Oswald after his own life, because he just oozes charisma everywhere he goes. He is this character, and it's so much fun to watch him having the time of his life playing this role that is a role meant for him, basically. As someone like me who can be closed off and deals with social issues and depression, it is an inspiration to see Adam out here enjoying life. I highly recommend this movie, even if it gets a little confusing with like some identity crisis about partway through the movie and then carries on through the end. The movie itself is still a work of art, and I highly recommend people go see this. Number 7, The Apprentice. Alright, so I've already done a full spoiler-free review for The Apprentice, so I'm going to summarize it up very quickly right here. This is another movie where Sebastian Stan just shines, and is possibly also going to get an Oscar nomination for this as well. He does a phenomenal job portraying Donald Trump, basically from the late 70s to the early 90s, and we get to see how he adopts the more famous, like, Trumpisms, like the voice or the overuse of the hyperbole that we are used to seeing Trump doing. Like, it's the greatest, it's the best, it's the most phenomenal, everyone says it's the greatest, I hear from everyone. And then also the hand gestures that we're also very commonly used to seeing Trump do. It's the greatest hand gestures. These are the hand gestures that you expect to see from quite possibly one of the greatest people to ever do hand gestures. I've heard a lot of people do hand gestures very well, and none of them, in my opinion, are better than the ones that Donald J. Trump does. I can't say his name. While I know nothing about Trump's history, I feel like this was a well-made biopic. Like other biopics, may over-dramatize certain aspects to make the movie good. Unfortunately, you can't fact-check a movie while it's being made. Go figure. I highly recommend this if you can separate the man from the politics, just like any other biopic. If you can't, then don't bother. But you probably already have an opinion about this movie before you even see it, so take it what you will. Number 6, Bone Lake. Bone Lake feels very similar to Barbarian in that it's an Airbnb that is double booked by two couples. And that's roughly about as much as I want to say about the plot of this movie. This is one of those movies that you really want to go into it, much like Barbarian. You want to go into this movie knowing as little as possible if you could. While I did guess the twist early on, this doesn't seem like the type of movie that you should be applauding yourself for guessing it. It involves more fast-paced soap opera drama than a CW show. This was one of the movies that a lot of people at Fantastic Fest were constantly talking about after coming out of movies and hearing people say like, hey, what would you recommend that I see? What's a movie that you enjoyed? A lot of people were saying Bone Lake, and this was one that I actually made a sacrifice on some of my sleep and my ability to rest to go out of my way to see this, and I'm actually really glad I did. It wasn't the greatest movie in my opinion. It's not like on par with my favorites from last year, Riddle of Fire or Last Stop in Yuma County, but it is an intriguing movie with some good twists to it. Again, I highly recommend. Don't know anything else about the movie other than what I just said here. Number 5, Ick. Aw, it looks like you got your late 90s, early 2000s pop-punk Spotify playlist mixed in with my pseudo The Blob remake. Ick is a live-action cartoon that runs at a breakneck pace to help out all the ADHD-positive humans like me, while being witty and a commentary on dumb pandemic opinions, much better than Don't Look Up's dry humor take on that subject. Joseph Kahn directs a fun movie with former Superman Brandon Routh playing the drunk former high school jock from Superman 3.
You never do pass out, do you?
Nope.
Ironic. It's a lot of fun, even if you have outgrown a tolerance to Gen Z slang and behavior. It is hitting a PG-13 crowd, so don't expect a lot of gore, but do expect to believe that the band Creed really is one of the bands of all time. Number 4, Saturday Night. Secret screening number 1 this year was Saturday Night, a movie that almost plays in real time, showing us the 90 minutes that lead up to the first airing of Saturday Night Live back in the 70s. It is chaotic and dizzying as the camera tends to be following Lorne Michaels most of the time as he's doing his damnedest to hold this production together. The characterizations are all on point. The only issue is if you don't know who some of the actors were in the original SNL lineup, or if you're not that familiar with the actors who are playing those actors, you may get lost as to which characters we're actually following. Like the characters of Chevy Chase and John Belushi, they are easy to understand. You know who they are. There is one actor that is playing both Jim Henson and Andy Kaufman, which is funny when you stop to think about it, but also it could be a little weird if you're someone who is basing your connection to these characters off of the face. They try to show you at least the main cast at the beginning, but it's easy to lose track, and with quick camera movements and constant pace, it's really hard to just stay on top of all of these characters within the confines of this, like, a little over 90-minute long movie. Otherwise, this is a fun movie that doesn't play too hard with the memberberries, but I would highly recommend it if you are a fan of SNL. Number 3, Bookworm. This movie is going to win what I would refer to as my Riddle of Fire award. This is an award that I will give out for a movie that is not really horror. This is a family-friendly movie that plays at Fantastic Fest, and it's really heartfelt and genuine. There's amazing chemistry between Elijah Wood and Nell Fisher, who was also phenomenal in Evil Dead Rise. Wood continues to be a weird person in an Ant Timpson-directed movie like the outstanding Come to Daddy, complete with wearing a weird hat that he quickly loses into the beginning of the movie. It may even actually be the same hat. Fisher plays a precarious child who's extremely intelligent due to her love of reading, and I love watching these two grow over the course of this movie. I'm also happy to see Michael Smiley return from Come to Daddy, and the New Zealand cinematography is absolutely breathtaking. Time and time again, I love seeing movies shot in New Zealand as the landscape is perfect for these kinds of movies. Overall, it's not as cuddly and as wholesome as a Paddington movie. It's a little bit of a step above, but I would still highly recommend that this is a good, heartfelt movie for families. You're going to enjoy it. Number 2, Terrifier 3. Man, Terrifier 3 continues to amp up the gore and the story. While the world is fleshed out and skinned a bit more in this, it still leaves us with more questions that we hope to see answered from part 2. So bad news, not really a lot of clarifications on some of the story points from Terrifier 2. Good news, we are getting a Terrifier 4. So, is there anything you could possibly say on whether or not we're getting Terrifier 4?
Are we getting Terrifier 4?
Well, I love that you're still thinking about the next one after that. Yeah. So, yes, there will be a Terrifier 4. Yeah.
David Howard Thornton continues to have way too much fun as Art the Clown, while Samantha Scafidi gets much needed expanded role. Lauren Lavera continues to kick ass as Sienna, the final girl, but plays her as a more cautious and traumatized character. I love the direction that Elliot Fulham takes Jonathan as someone who used to be into serial killers, but he's kind of dropped that now that he's actually been traumatized and has lived through dealing with a serial killer in the previous movie. The gore continues to be the star and is ramped up even more in this one, making a lot of people laugh at the absurdity of it, while others were wincing and turning their heads. Be prepared for more reports of people fainting or puking while attending screenings of Terrifier 3. My only negative really was the editing made some scenes confusing, especially one key shot where I thought Sienna was dreaming again, as she did in Terrifier 2, and she does a couple of times in this movie. There was a shot that I thought she was dreaming, and then it took me a couple of minutes to realize, oh no, she's not dreaming. This actually is what's going on in her world. And with a shorter runtime compared to Part 2, there are definitely some things that could have been shortened, and a few parts I would have preferred expanded on. Otherwise, this was a solid entry into what is quickly becoming one of my favorite horror franchises ever. At number 1 is Anora. Anora is to Mikey Madison as X, Pearl, and Maxine were to Mia Goth. This is her breakout role. This is what she is going to be known for. I very much love her performance in Scream 5, especially towards the end of Scream 5, but this is a whole nother level for her. This puts her acting chops to the test, and she takes a whiny, irritating personality and turns it into someone who is endearing to the audience. A part of that is because the cast is almost cartoonish characters around her for like the back 2/3 of the movie. It is unexpectedly hilarious in the most perfect way. It is the sarcastic, witty humor that I love, where a character will say something that doesn't quite sound like something a person would say in tense situations, but keeps the events unfolding grounded so you remember that we are dealing with human beings and not characters on a page. The movie runs at about 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it flies by and you are hooked into the story during the entire runtime. And you're wondering what twists and turns it could throw at you, all the while having a satisfying ending that will make you immediately want to watch it again just for another hit of the craziness that you just endured. And that is it for my rankings of all 22 movies I saw at the festival this year. Yes, I was not able to get to all of the movies that I wanted to see that were in my anticipating video that I put out a couple of weeks ago. I'm still eager to see a lot of those. It's just unfortunately because of the timing of when some of these movies played and that ticketing process, I needed to cancel especially some movies that played at 11 a.m. and some of the movies that played at 11 p.m. And that took away from my ability to see a lot of these movies that I was wanting to see. I heard a lot of good things about Dead Talent Society, Daddy's Head. I was interested in seeing Else and Frankie Frico. Unfortunately, I'll just have to keep my eye open for those movies when they become available to watch at home. I'm still eager to see those based off of the hype that I had wanting to see them at the festival. Just getting, unfortunately, missing out on them. So I do recommend a lot of these movies again, other than that last one, than the one at the beginning of my list, number 22, Don't Mess with Grandma. I highly recommend go check out all of these movies. Some of them may work for you. Not all of them worked exactly perfect the way I would have liked them to work out for me. Maybe you'll have a better time with them than I did. Let me know if you end up catching any of these movies. You come back to this video for some weird reason. Let me know your thoughts, feelings, and opinions down below in the comments. I am eager to attend Fantastic Fest next year again. Apparently it's going to be the 20th anniversary of Fantastic Fest, so I'm expecting a huge event at that time. So highly recommend go check out Fantastic Fest if you haven't been there before. If you do come, make sure to come say hi. Be open to meeting a lot of people that you may be introverted, and this will help break you out of that mold. Everyone that I got to talk to were all friendly. They were all eager to share their movie opinions, and that made it a whole lot of fun. So highly recommend go to Fantastic Fest. It should be around September, later half of September next year, so keep your eye open for that. It's a lot of fun. Until then, we're still doing some fun things over here on Cinefanatics. Make sure you drop down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts, feelings, and opinions. Hit the like button and subscribe. Follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The Cinefanatics. You can follow me personally at RCA Reacts on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Letterboxd. And that is going to do it for this video. I will see you on the next one. Goodbye. Oh, damn, that popcorn actually is really good. I'm so hungry.